This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd here again, Dave, another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. Today I've got an interesting one. I haven't got around to this in a while. This is a case study I've been meaning to cover for y'all. And it reminds me of a couple lessons I learned in business school and some of the business books I've read. It might be Warren Buffett quote, might be somebody else, I don't recall. But there's really two rules to business. One, don't take no for an answer. And two, never use your own money. Now, in reality, I've used my own money on a lot of my deals, more than half at this point. And I'm our biggest LP investor too, so I put my money where my mouth is, and it tends to work out, better more than often. So I'm not that ashamed of it, and I actually like it. Now, in this deal, I ended up using my own money, but because I didn't want to jeopardize investor money. But the way that the first deal worked, I actually didn't use hardly any of anybody's money other than the sellers. So it was kind of a seller finance combo. This is one of two deals I bought in the same city. So I think I'm going to break them up into two podcasts just because of time. But this first one, the way that this started out was a client of mine. It was a new client, first-time client. Ended up doing several deals for this guy. But he just hired me, hey, I'm buying a deal in your location and your region. I need some help. Need some help on the zoning. We're having an issue with the city. I'm buying this from a wholesaler, and it's gotten to a little bit of a snafu. Now, fortunately, the wholesaler's contract with the underlying seller said something along the lines of DD ends, 40 to 45 days from receipt of satisfactory letter from the city. They can infill the vacant lots. Which the seller's like, okay, that's no big deal. And a lot of times sellers do infill, even when they're not supposed to, because they don't know any better. And the city's not watching, so they'll just like bring a home in, and then the city may or may not care. Well, my client, with us, as our law firm, starts kicking around, we want to get a zoning letter. An ideal zoning letter says, among other things, I can bring a home of any age, of any size, for no fee, of any color, with no setback, interior, perimeter, to any vacant lot or to any occupied lot. And if an occupied lot goes vacant from, fire or otherwise, I can bring a home in. If it's 6 months, 6 years, doesn't matter. I can bring a home in. There's no impact fees, there's no development fees, etc. Now that's the A++ letter. Not always an accurate fact situation, so you can't always get it. And then other times you can't always get it because the cities are obstinate. Well, this was a case where the city said, just hell no. Basically, this trailer park has been there for a long time. It looks like hell. Regardless, it's not zoned mobile home park or manufactured housing community, so it's non-conforming, and they said it's legal non-conforming as to use, which means you can exist, but it's not legal or illegal and non-conforming as to size, setbacks, etc. And you've abandoned the vacant lots on a per lot basis, because we have aerial photography that shows those lots have been vacant for 5 years, and the code says 6 months. So we were kind of at an impasse. So my client, he agreed to buy this deal. It was $800,000 from the seller, and then the wholesaler was going to charge $50K, and the wholesaler spent, I think, $7,500 on a third-party DD report. Wasn't that good a report, to be honest. There are some people out there that do a really good job on third-party DD, but this one was just, a basic, should have been $500, in my opinion. And I have strong opinions on it because I ended up paying for it in the end of the movie. So ultimately, my client's fighting. I said, look, here's the deal. I think I can beat the city, but it ain't gonna be cheap, and they're not caving, and they're saying bring it on. So he said, look, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting a loan anyway because I'm not local to that state, and it's a value add deal, it's a smaller deal, and I'm already in the hole, a few $1,000 with you. I'm in the hole on this DD report. I don't think I'm gonna buy this deal. Do you want it if you're so confident you can win? And I said, well, I am confident I can win, but, you never know. Litigation's never a guarantee. And I certainly can't win in 60 days if we go to lawsuit. So I have to buy this deal, and the seller's getting super antsy and super pissed. Ultimately, it took like 10 months to close this thing. So the seller's just getting more and more pissed. Like, you guys told me you'd move fast and 30-day DD, 30-day close. But there was a provision in there about DD doesn't end until we get a green light from the city, and we weren't getting the green light. So the seller's getting pissed here. In the meantime, the seller who's moved on site, been there for like 3 years, moved on site from California. He's actively fixing up the property. He's renovating the homes himself. He's moved his wife on site. Really nice site built home that he built, renovated to really high quality. And he's been, selling homes and renovating homes and raising rents. And, basically he's like, I've spent another 100,000 of labor materials since we went under contract. So he's just getting pissy. I want a higher purchase price at this point. So it's like the opposite retrade. So anyway, I tell my client, he goes, hey, if you, kick in, basically waive your legal fees and take over my spot from the wholesaler, I'll just get out of the way. So I said, deal. So I step in 800. Um, Somewhere along the line, the wholesaler got the price reduced to 749. Well, that's when the seller got really pissy because he thought it was going to be an inducement to close, and then he didn't realize that that DD extension was still out there. So he's still pissy. So anyway, I get in, I get the assignment from my client to me, wholesalers involved. Ultimately, I retrade the wholesaler from 50K down to 25 because the deal still had a ton of hair on it. Normally, I would have raised money from the investors, and that's what I was doing at this time. This is 2021. I was doing a fair amount of syndication work at that time. And I was like, look, if I buy this deal and I put on a bunch of investor money and have a pref and all this, like I might be behind the eight ball and I may have to sell the deal and make no money. And for me or my investors, and that's kind of career suicide for syndicators. So I was like, well, that's not going to work. And I might get sued if they think I, shouldn't have done it because I took an acquisition fee or something. So I was like, maybe I'll just do it myself. Well, I didn't want to, I had a couple deals going at the same time. I didn't want to tap all my money. So, 'cause I only had so much money, right? So I thought, hey, dear seller, how about I retrade you and I'll agree to close and I'll give you a little bit more on the purchase price, but I need you to sell or carry it because I don't have as much skin in the game as far as equity. He says, okay, but you got to close in, for real. Don't wait for the city. So I said, okay, I'm just rolling the dice that I'm going to beat the city later. And I figured, because I don't have any investor money in, if I end up, I bought it right. If I end up not being able to do too much, but only do like a little bit of turnaround, but no infill, I can still get out of the deal, sell it. It's in a good market. It was 47 sites, so I can still get out of it and make a couple bucks, and I'll call it a single. But I was like, but if I can fix the zoning, well, then it becomes a home run because I can infill it. It's a good market. Park's a little rough, but whatever, I could fix that. And then if I later on in life, what I'll cover in another episode, I ended up combining with another deal 2 blocks down the road. A lot of economies of scale, a lot of efficiencies. Market got better, operations got better, and went from being a single to a home run to 2 home runs, and it was like grand slam. We made a ton of money on the deal. But for today, here's how it went down. So looking at it from the beginning, I'm looking at my old pro forma. Don't quote me on this because it's been a long time, but there were 37 occupied at 308 lot rent. Now, really, those 37 we thought were gonna be like 32, 33, probably lose like 4 or 5 because when we started enforcing rules, a lot of these are 1960s, 1970 trailers. Part of the story was we had to convert some of these park-owned homes because the city had a really strict rental ordinance for any park-owned homes. So that like, these homes were not going to pass inspection. And we were now a transfer of ownership, and I was in the city's kitchen on some legal matters, which I'll get to in a minute. So they knew I existed. They knew I was the new landlord. So they were going to bust my chops on, making these 1960s trailers, roadworthy today. So we had to go back to the tenants and be like, look, we got a couple options here. Um, we can spend $20,000 and fix this up, and then we got to raise your rent through the roof. And keep in mind, I'm not the bad slumlord that let this home get in this condition. I just inherited it. So it's not fair for me to spend 20 grand and still charge 400 a month gross rent if lot rent's 308. So if you want us to charge 900 a month, we can spend the money on it. Well, no, we don't want 900. Okay. Option two is we non-renew you and we demo the home and we bring in a different trailer. No, 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 I don't want to do that. Okay. Well, why not? Well, because there's nowhere else to go and we like living here. It's cheap. Okay, option three, is you buy the home. They're like, we don't want to buy the home. Like, well, here's the deal. I'm going to give you the home for free. You're going to charge me a $1,000 rehab credit, and you're gonna pay me 1,000. I'm gonna paint the outside, fix the deck, fix the skirting, make it look good on the outside, and then I'm gonna give you the home for free. And now it's not a park-owned home, it's a tenant-owned home, and it legitimately was. We gave them title, all that kind of stuff. So that we told the city we have no park-owned homes, so they did no inspections. Now, was this home, roadworthy? Not really. We thought it was safe. Safe. It was, wasn't. Was it beautiful? No. Did it have a bathroom door? Maybe. But it had a furnace. The windows closed. The doors locked. There was no mold. The roof didn't leak. It looked good on the outside, and it was really cheap for the customer. So everybody kind of won. So that helped us kind of get through that next step of paying the city. So ultimately, I go to the city and say, look, it's my opinion that I predate the code and I even predate the city. And as a result, I am legal, non-conforming as to both use and setbacks in operation. And they said, we disagree. And I said, well, I disagree. And I slapped them with like, it went round and round. I didn't immediately get this hostile, but don't take no for an answer, right? I'm a bull in a china shop, which sometimes means I break some dishes, but sometimes means I get to the other side. So I was determined to get to the other side. So I dropped a 25-page legal memorandum on it. It was a huge ordeal. And the case law was favorable. And I was dealing with the planning guy, who's one of the smartest and actually most honorable planning guys I've ever dealt with. He's smarter than me on nearly everything in planning and zoning. But there's one little slice of the world that I know better than the average bear, and that's zoning and infill and non-conforming rights matters as they pertain to mobile homes and mobile home parks because it's distinct from everything else they teach you in generic planning school, zoning school, or even law school. So I've kind of carved out this little niche of expertise, which I knew, but he didn't accept. So I dropped a big memo on his desk and said, I'm not threatening a lawsuit. I want to play nice. But if I was to do a lawsuit, this is what it's going to look like. And he took up the flagpole, and after some hemming and hawing, they said, proceed. And we called it, get a concept plan they agreed upon. Minimal setbacks. I had to give certain parking. I got the permission to put in my amenities. So then, boom, I was off and running. I fought the city and I won. So I did my regular business plan, transferred some POH, brought in some homes, sold some homes, rented some homes, fixed some roads. I painted some ugly trailers. I put in this park, I put in a dog park, covered a picnic area, a playground. That's about all we had room for. It already had nice mailboxes. We put up some decor and fencing, but it didn't have a lot of corners actually, so we didn't do a bunch of that. We raised the rent over a number of years. We submetered, and then all was good, and we got it up to 47 out of 47. So it went from like 37 to like 32. Then went back up to 47. We had a little bit of an issue with the submetering because I didn't realize this, but the city had an ordinance that precluded it. Well, we had some cat that didn't like us submetering, so he turned me to the city. So then I looked at the code, and they actually can't submeter at all unless you get permission. So I had to go to the city council and get permission. And that was actually a pretty easy fight. They were actually pretty collaborative, pitched all the conservation and fairness and all that kind of stuff. Got that over the hump, and turned this park around. And as I mentioned earlier, that was kind of one of two factors. Don't take no for an answer. Well, the other was don't use your own money. So I ended up buying this deal, and I bought it for $799. I got this seller I paid more. I increased the price from 750 because he was really pushing hard. He did add value. And in order to get the time and not have him default, we had to sue him. I said, okay, I'll pay you a little more, but I need you to give me a 60-month, no interest loan amortized over 10 years for 148,000. So I'm gonna calculator out because my brain is tired tonight. It's late here in Kansas City. Um, so 799,000 was my purchase price. I got a bank loan for 639. So it's 160 minus 148. So I had to bring $12,000 to the table on this deal for 47 sites in a 200,000 person metro in 2001. The appraisal came in like they always do, 860,000. That was actually higher than I would expect, as most appraisers are gutless and they're like, we're going to come in with a high enough value to not ruin the deal and get us kicked off the lender's list, but a low enough value we don't put our neck on the line. I always think, wouldn't it be great if we didn't give appraisers a copy of the purchase contract? If we really want to know what they thought the value was, they'd have to do their job. But instead, we give them the contract. I used to run a department of 70 appraisers, so I'm not trying to bust their balls too much, but it's pretty frustrating. Anywho, I just in the spring of 2025 got around to refinancing this park. I got a low ball appraisal, in my opinion. It was a 7.5 cap. This is a good market. It's a good park. It's 100% occupied. Rents are now in the more mid 400s. We submetered it. Roads look good. Homes look good. Well kept. This and another park are down the street. I have no manager. Like it's literally that easy to manage at this point. I have a maintenance guy. I have a couple maintenance guys, but one of them in particular is a construction manager is good. So he just kind of keeps his eye. He lives in one of the parks, not this one, but the other one, and he keeps his eyes open. And we just don't have much problems. So this appraised in January of 25 of 2,750,000. So I'm going to use rough numbers here because I combined it with another couple loans, so it's kind of hard. I don't have that on a closing statement for you. But 2,750,000, we got a 70% loan is 1,925,000. This is a deal. So I had to pay off my existing bank, which was I had to pay off the seller too because I ended up because he was cross collateralized. So I had to pay off the 148. So basically I had to pay off just under $700,000 for the land. That's some mobile homes and stuff too. But that's 1,200,000 of equity pulled out, tax free on a $12,000 equity contribution. So it ended up being a big deal for me. And I didn't have any investors in the deal. I believe it or not, I had the 12,000 going in. And I had to put more money into it than that because I had to put some capex and stuff. I probably had 100 in it. It wasn't like I had 500 in it. And I didn't cherry pick this deal for my investors. I've never done that because that's also kind of bad for career business for syndications. So if I have an open fund, I roll the deal in the fund. If I just have a one-off deal between funds, then I'd make a discretionary move. I'm doing it myself or not. And I've been slowing down more and doing it just, at some point enough's enough, so to speak. So I've been doing them on my own the last several deals. And anyway, but the reason I did this deal by myself wasn't because I was trying to cut out my investors. It's because I didn't want to, I was protecting my investors because I didn't want to like drop a turd where I couldn't get the city to cave. And really the deal had been really hard to make sense, big picture, if I couldn't get the city to cave, but I did. So ultimately, lessons learned, never use your own money. In this case, instead of investors' money, I used the seller's money, which was more profitable for me. So I still abided by that rule. And he was pleased as punch. I paid him off. I paid him point payments. I treated him well. He was super pissed at the wholesaler and then the second wholesaler. And then I do DD and he's like, "Who are you?" And he could tell that I was kind of calling the shots. And I was like, just like transparent. Look, dude, you're pissed. Like, what have I ever said or done to you that's been inaccurate or misrepresentation? He's like, "Well, not you, but the last guy." I go, "Look, you're dealing with me now. Don't be mad at the last guy." So he ended up coming around, but I didn't use my own money and I didn't take no from the answer for city. And this, by the way, this appraisal is light. I would not sell him at what, 275. I mean, it's kind of garbage, in my opinion. Right now, the rents at this park, they just went up this month in August. They're 420. So 420 times 47 times 12 months times 0.65 NOI ratio equals NOI of a million, well, excuse me, 153,972. I think this is easily a 6.5 cap park. Um, that's 2.3. I made a mistake there somewhere. Um, do that again. Maybe I'm messing something up here. 420 times 12 times 47 times 0.65 divided by 0.65. Yeah, 2.324. Okay. I think this one was, I'm not counting the shed rent or the home rent. That must be the delta because I haven't looked at this in a while. But anyway, and plus I probably wouldn't sell it at that cap rate in this market with a lot of upside. But we're running the lower expense ratio. In my mind, this is definitely a $3 million park. I haven't dusted this off since January or whatever. But ultimately, um, very high ROI. Looks like, yeah, 1,200,000 and change. This closing statement, you got a mix of fees in there, paying stuff off. But ultimately, overall, good deal. We got, more sites occupied, more affordable housing, improved the community a ton and made some money in the process. So everybody wins. Till next time, thanks and God bless.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.